Project apprentices. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you aboard and thank you for your patience in the sign-up process. First thing you need to do is go in and set up your W-9 form. And this is just your standard W-9 form. You need to fill in your name, set it as individual sole proprietor, put your address, and your social security number, and then sign it down here. And the rest of this you don't really have to worry about. Once you've filled that out, that's also required to get paid, and we do report all earnings to the IRS. Okay, once you filled out the W-9, then go ahead and go into the profile page, which is the middle button here. That's going to take you to your profile page. In the profile page on the top right, you're going to notice there's an NDA form link. This is your non-disclosure agreement form, and this has to be filled out before you can either start or get paid or accept projects. The NDA form is basically you telling us that you're not going to share sensitive insider information with anybody outside of our company. Go ahead and click that link, and it's going to take you into a form that looks like this. This is all done right on the site. You don't have to go anywhere or fax anything. All you have to do at this point is to read this entire form and then sign it at the bottom and sign it at the top. Once you've filled that out correctly, go ahead and hit submit, and it's going to let you know that it's been saved. The next steps, go back into the profile. The next thing you need to fill in is your phone number. We need a phone number that we can actually reach you at any time during business hours, which is generally between 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also change your password at any time by clicking on the new password field and filling in a new password. The next thing to fill in is your PayPal email. This is where we're going to pay you. This is where we send your bi-weekly paycheck, which is going to be based on everything you've done between the 1st and the 15th, which will be paid on the 16th, and everything from the 16th to the 31st or the 30th, depending on when the month terminates, will be paid on the 1st. To go into any project to actually write your article or your content, in this case it's mini blurbs, so just go ahead and click on the project title. Now, one thing I want to note about the project title is the project title is not there for the writers, it's actually there for the customers to track their project. The two areas that you need to look at to get an idea of what the project's about is the keyword, which is this right here. The keyword is going to be what you're going to write the article about. So this is pretty much the first place you want to look. The second place you want to look is the project notes or the keyword notes. Either one of these are going to give you a clue as to what the customer wants specifically done with that article. If there are no notes, then generally you'll just take this keyword and write the article based on research that you'll do with the keyword. For example, copying the keyword into Google to do your research will bring you back all kinds of pages of information and so on. So if you get a project that has a different title up here that doesn't match the keyword and the notes box, then don't worry about it. This has actually nothing to do with the writers. However, if you get a keyword and a notes box that have two conflicting niches, for example, if you have industrial lubricating oils in Detroit, and up here talking about forklifts, you know that the research URL is wrong. Just submit a ticket to us and let us know about that so that we can go in and figure out if the project can be salvaged or if we need to send it back to the customer. So to get to any particular blurb in the set, you just click on the link. When you complete all checksums in an article, for example, you need to have a title in there. You need to have content in there. The content needs to be the minimum word count that it says here. And right here is going to tell you how many you actually have. And if everything is okay and you've hit spell check and you've hit save, once everything's complete, you're going to get a check mark right here. A little green check mark next to that telling you that that project is ready to go and it's ready to submit. Now sometimes the green check mark won't come right away, so if you don't get a check mark after hitting save, just go to the next project, complete all the different projects on there, and sometimes all the check marks just show up at once. And if you don't have any check marks at all and you've completed all the projects, go ahead and try and submit it, because sometimes it'll just go. Prefer that you not type anything into Microsoft Word and then copy it over into Wordgigs. A lot of people do this for spell check and grammar check, but if you absolutely have to use Word, there's a trick to making sure that the formatting doesn't mess up the formatting for the customer. And that trick is this button right here with the W on it. If you click on this button, it's going to open a separate screen. Instead of typing anything into this screen here, you're going to type it in here. You're going to copy paste it in here. What this is going to do when you hit insert is it's going to remove any Microsoft Word formatting that's been added to the document. So when you copy something, it grabs all kinds of HTML, but it also grabs all those extra tags. Those tags actually mess up the way it looks and displays in the customer's copy of the article that's finished. Sometimes it'll actually ram all the paragraphs together. Sometimes it'll add super huge gaps in between each paragraph. So by using this, instead of going straight into the window, but clicking on this W, you're basically going to copy, paste directly in here from Word and then hit insert, and it's going to put it in here with no tags. Now, a feature we have that will automatically insert the keyword into your article is this button here with the double A's. What this basically does is it copies what's in this box verbatim into the article. If you type any of these letters incorrectly, or if this is a capital letter here and it's a lowercase here, it's not going to match up and it's not going to work. Everything in this box must match exactly what comes up in here. All you have to do is start writing your article and then click on this button, and it's going to insert it right at the cursor. And then you just continue writing. Now, as you notice, when I did insert the keyword into the article, it now checks off here, showing that it does exist in the article. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is the support ticket system. It's really easy to use. Just click on this button, and it's just your basic email form. You just give us a subject, which we would like you to tell us what the problem is concisely, but give us a good description of the problem. This is an optional feature, but we would like you to always add the project number of whatever project you're having a problem with, because that allows us to go in quickly, grab that project, and investigate the problem and get back to you as soon as possible. If you have several project IDs that are a problem, make sure that you put the project IDs inside the message box. You can only put one project ID up here, but if you have multiple project IDs, just go ahead and put them all in here. Or you can put them all on the subject line. That would work as well. You just fill in the message, whatever the problem is, and then hit submit new ticket. That's going to submit a ticket to the support team, and at that point, within 24 hours, you will hear back from us. However, most of the time, you're going to hear back from us within the hour. When we respond to your ticket, you're going to receive an email both in your support section, which is here. It's going to show up above this box, so you will start seeing all kinds of links right here. Another copy is going to be sent to the email address on your account. Now, if you want to reply to a ticket, you can do it from within the support area. This is just going to create a new ticket. So it's going to send it to the email address you have in your profile. Now, you can't reply to the ticket and include all the information in there that's going to actually help support figure out your problem if it's an ongoing problem. If you keep submitting new tickets from here, what you need to do is go into whatever email program you're using, whether it's Gmail, Yahoo, MSN, whatever, and you need to go into that email address and open the mail from there. If you hit reply from within your email program, not inside the Wordgigs system, it's going to actually do a reply, and it's going to include all the information from the past ticket. So that's a good way to keep the ticket going back and forth and to consolidate everything into one place. To open your mail, all you have to do is either click on the title here or the picture here. If you have it set to available, which is the queue, this is going to show you when new projects come in the queue. All you have to do is click on the title and accept the project. We're going to go through that in a minute. To explain what these different pages do, available is the queue. Accepted is going to be your personal queue. This is going to be what projects you accepted. Currently, there's no projects accepted in this account. Complete is going to be projects you accepted, completed, turned in, got paid for. And this is going to be where you're going to verify that you got paid for those projects. Now, the first thing you're going to look to verify if you got paid for a project, as soon as you submit it, this number up here is going to change. And it's going to reflect however much you've already earned and how much the project is, and it's going to change that number. So you have two ways to verify that you got paid. One is up here, and then the other is to look in your completed section to see if it shows up in there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to cover is setting up a project. This is the live queue right now. As I make this video, all of these projects are actually available for taking, and they're all articles. So let's go ahead and just pick one of these from the list. We always want to pick the top one first. If none of the work that's on this page looks good, but you still want to complete some work, please take the top projects first, because those are going to be the oldest ones. In this case, these are all pretty much brand new projects, and you can tell because the date is the 29th and the submitted on date is the 29th. Click into the project. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to accept this project? It will be due in 96 hours. And you just hit OK, and then hit OK again. Now, if you go back into your queue, which is under the accepted page, you'll see that the queue has one project. To get into that project, all you have to do is click on this link. To throw it back, you click on this link. To see what the project's about, either here or in the actual queue, click on this little pencil. It's going to make a pop-up box come up. You can close the pop-up box simply by double-clicking on it. But you'll notice that this is going to show you exactly what's in the project notes. Some people put one-liners, some people put a lot of notes, but this is how you're going to be able to tell what the project's about. It gives you kind of a better idea of whether or not you want to complete the project. We're going to go over this real quick. The first field you're going to see is the content type. This is either going to be original or rewritten. So make sure you pay attention to this, because a rewrite is going to require you to go to the research URL or a URL that they put in the notes, or there's going to be a box with the content itself in it, and that will need to be rewritten. The next one is extra research. If the customer pays a little bit more, they're going to get extra research. What this means for you is you get paid more, and then you'll have to do a little more research and put more detail into the article. Details are extremely important in our articles. You don't have to write a Pulitzer Prize winning article, but you do need to write an article that is detailed and valuable, because the customers are outsourcing these articles to use on websites, and they're either trying to drive traffic to their site or they're trying to sell a product or something to that effect. Make sure there's enough detail in here for a visitor to actually get some value from it, as well as the customer. The next one you need to pay attention to is how many times in total do you want your primary keyword phrase to be used. Now, they can enter anywhere from 1 to 20 in this field. Now, obviously, if the article is only 350 to 400 words long, it's not going to be able to accommodate 20 instances of a keyword. So generally, they're going to put 1 or 2 or 3 depending on the size of the article. If you get a really large number in this right here for a 350-word article, for example, if someone puts it in there as 10, then go ahead and submit a support ticket and let us know. We're probably going to tell you just to put it in 2 or 3 or 4 times in that instance. And if it's rejected, just let us know again. Now the next one, this one fluctuates depending on the customer, but main keyword and title means that you're going to use this keyword in the title. So if you get a strange keyword or a misspelled keyword, or the keyword is all capitalized and it looks funny in the article, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and put it in there exactly the way it is in there. It's the customer's responsibility to make sure that this keyword box is filled in correctly. So even if it's grammatically incorrect, you can't add joiner wording, you can't change the keyword in any way. So you'll just have to use it the way it is. If you have any trouble doing this, let us know. The next is the keyword notes box. This is a lot like the project notes, except it's usually specific to the keyword. Most customers will actually use the keyword notes box as a place to put their LSI terms. LSI stands for Latent Semantic Indexing. Essentially, an LSI term is a keyword that's related to another keyword. For example, lawnmower has LSIs such as grass, blades, lawnmower, push mower, Anything related to lawnmower would be an LSI term for lawnmower being the main keyword. Customers are allowed to put in up to 4 LSI terms, and the way that works is you have to use the 4 LSI terms one time each in the article. This does not change how you use the main keyword. If the main keyword is supposed to be used twice, you still have to use the main keyword 2 times in the article verbatim. So if they also say you need to use it in the title, then you have to use it in the title. No matter how long the keyword is, don't use the whole keyword only as the title. The next thing is the content. This is going to tell you how many words minimum and maximum you need for the particular project. So for example, the least amount of words that you can put in this article is 350, the maximum being 400. Now if you put less than 350, even 349, or if you put more than 400, even 401, it's not going to take it. It's not going to let you submit it. It's not going to give you a checksum or a submit box. So you're going to have to be careful to keep it between those 2 words. The best thing to do on a 350 to 400 word article is to write 375 words. That's about where I've seen no problems existing as far as the word count or it not submitting because of word count. To submit or save, you're going to need to do a spell check first. Even if you just ran a spell check, if you did anything to change the article or title, punctuation, anything like that, you're going to have to go back and click on this button again once it does its spell check, and then hit OK. A lot of new writers forget to put in their title, and this is why a project won't submit. So make sure if you're filling in your content first that you do try to put in some sort of a title. As you get into this project, when you complete this particular post and you have the keyword phrase at least one time, it's going to give you a check mark once that keyword is in there. Once you fulfill the title, that's going to be a checksum as well, but it doesn't actually give you a check mark. The other thing that you need to meet is you need to make sure you're spell checking and saving. And if all of these posts are done, you're going to get a check mark for each one. Sometimes you have to fill in all the different posts before you'll see all the check marks appear. If you don't see a check mark in the end after you've completed every post in a project, then still try to save and submit the project. If it doesn't submit, go ahead and submit a support ticket. Okay, let's go into the first project, the Blurb Project. Blurb Project is going to look like this. It's going to say how many posts are in there. Generally, it's anywhere between 5 and 10 posts. There are 1 blurb posts as well, but generally you're going to see them between 5 and 10. Okay, once you're inside the project, the first thing you're going to notice on the left-hand side is there's going to be a series of projects. This is one project, but it's got 10 posts in it, so each post pays separately. The title that you're going to see up here is going to be the name of the post. Now you'll notice that all of these are checked off. That means all of these are already completed and they can be submitted. So you can go through each of your different posts just by clicking on them and then just complete this stuff over here. The title of a blurb post must be a good title. It can't just be the keyword. If you just use the keyword, you're going to end up with a lot of duplicate content issues in the title and your post won't submit. The other thing is that we do not want you to use the keyword in blurbs or mini posts unless the customer specifically tells you to do so in the notes. That would be right here. Now, a blurb is written in first-person story format. So, for example, it's like you're writing to somebody on your own blurb and you're letting them know your opinion on something. Now, you'll notice that the keyword is capitalized in the keyword box and it's also capitalized down here. That's how it has to go in there. If this is not exactly the same as this, you will not get a checksum and it will not give you the submit button. The other thing is that we'd like the keyword to be used the centermost part of the blurb, not at the beginning or the end. So this should have been closer to the middle here, probably about the 50-word mark. Now, if you'll notice the way this is written, this is how a blurb should look. I would like to be there when this contractor arrives to make sure he checks out okay. I realize my parent noticed it's in first-person story format. Many blurbs are written exactly the same way as a blurb. The difference is that a mini blurb is 80 words, whereas a blurb is 100 words. But they're exactly the same format. They're written exactly the same way. Now, you'll also notice that you have a lot of the same fields in here. The content type, which is original. There's never going to be a rewrite blurb because it's not written like an article, so there is no rewrite feature. There's not going to be any extra research for blurbs. Blurb only uses one instance of the keyword. If they ask you to use up to 2, go ahead and put 2 in there, but only if they ask. Now they can choose to put the main keyword in the title. This is where I'm talking about if they tell you to put it in there, go ahead and put it into the title itself. But again, do not just copy this over into this box and use it as a title. For example, you could use Nashville Roofing Contractors so long as you add other words around it. So finding a Nashville roofing contractor would be a good title for that. The title that's used here, Keeping an Eye on My Parents, is not a very good title, by the way. The reason being is it doesn't really tell them what the article's about. They're not going to see that this is the keyword or this is the theme. They're just going to see the article and the title. And Keeping an Eye on My Parents doesn't tell them anything. It's very ambiguous. So we need to make sure our titles are actually based on the article itself. Again, you don't have to use the keyword, but you do need to make it about the content in the article. And it needs to be more specific than Keeping an Eye on My Parents. This, for example, could have read, Keeping an Eye on My Parents with the National Roofing Contractor. Something to that effect. Once you've completed all of your different mini blurbs, you're going to get check marks that go all the way down. Sometimes these check marks don't come in. It doesn't happen all the time, but if at any point you complete a project and you don't get the check mark up here, don't worry about it. Just complete the rest of the posts in the project so that you can see if the check marks come afterward. If you do complete all 10 posts in a project, for example, like this one, and you don't get check marks in a couple of them, you can go back to each of those without check marks and see if there's any issues. If there are no issues, just go ahead and hit submit. A lot of times it'll just go. If it still doesn't submit, go ahead and submit a ticket to us and let us know what the problem is or what the actual error message you get is. Before you submit any post, you have to actually hit the Spellcheck button, then hit OK, and then you can hit the submit button. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And once you submit the project, it's going to say, are you sure you want to submit? Your project will be submitted to the customer and further editing will not be allowed. This means we can't actually bring the project back to you if you accidentally submit it ahead of time or you don't proofread it first. You can go ahead and hit OK. Now, there's another error message that you're going to get, and this is what it looks like. Basically, for all the different blurbs that I put in here, I use the same exact content for all of the content pieces of probably about 3 or 4 of them. Our system has a way of detecting duplicate posts and duplicate content as well as duplicate titles. So for example, these phrases were used several times in different posts or different titles. So in order to submit this project, we're going to have to go back and fix all of these. If you do run into this kind of a problem, what you're going to need to do is figure out where all these exact phrases are showing up in your posts. So if you use this exact phrase in one post and then use it again in another post, even if it's in a whole different post about a whole different keyword, the fact is you can't use verbatim the same phrase. So we're going to go back into projects. And at that point, if you can't get it to submit no matter what you do, no matter how you correct it, go ahead and submit a ticket to us and we will take a look and help you out there. The next one is mini blurbs. Mini blurbs are exactly the same as blurbs, except they only require 80 words. Everything else is the same on a mini blurb as a blurb. This is an example of having all the checks except one check mark. For example, I have every post in here filled with something. And we'll get the check mark when we go into that post. But then if you click on any of the others, you'll notice the check mark disappears. This kind of alarms writers, but what you need to do is when that happens, just go ahead and hit submit. And if it goes, fine. If it doesn't go, submit a ticket to us and let us know and we'll go take a look for you. Just like the blurb, you're going to use the keyword verbatim one time, centermost in the post, probably about the 40 word mark. Sometimes they'll have keyword notes, sometimes they'll have keyword notes with the URL. If they ever ask you to write analytical blurbs or analytical mini blurbs, in other words, fact-filled or formatted like a 100-word article, then ignore those notes and actually write it in first-person story format. Okay, so then you want to make sure you spell check and save. Okay, now we're going to go into our accepted queue where I've set up a bunch of projects. Next one we're going to talk about is the mini post. Now, the mini post often gets confused with the mini blurb. The mini post and the mini blurb are complete opposites. The mini blurb is a first-person story format post that can be written in fiction or nonfiction. The mini post follows the same exact rules as an article, 250 words instead of 400 or higher. The mini post is supposed to be written in 2 paragraphs, 250 words, and include the keyword 2 times. You'll notice the same information is on top just like in any other post. You got the content type, which is original. You can get a rewritten mini post. They can also ask for extra research because this is an article format. It needs to be written factually and in third-person informative style. It must not be salesy in any way, even if they're trying to sell a product or they're talking about a product. Make sure it doesn't sound like you're selling the reader on anything. They also have the option of using secondary keywords, same with the regular articles. Research URLs are easy. This is basically the URL that's going to either tell you what they want based on what's on that other page. They're going to kind of give you an idea of what they want their article to be about or to look like or how they want it to be formatted. Or it could just be a regular research URL for you to look up in order to write the article. The keyword is used twice unless otherwise specified, and it needs to be used at least 1 time to get a check mark. Keyword notes work the same as the standard article. It's going to be basically about the keyword itself. Someone might put in LSI or supporting keyword terms for wedding centerpieces with candles. So for example, they might put in LSI terms such as wedding cake, wedding bells, wedding dress, things of that nature. Or they might put in notes to tell you that they want you to write a specific angle on wedding centerpieces with candles. Same as the title on a regular article. It needs to be informative, it needs to be 5 or more words, and it needs to be specific to what's in the article. It needs to give them a really good clue of what they're about to read about. This is a good title, great uses for candles and wedding centerpieces. This particular person used the keyword in the sentence, and that's what you should do for mini posts and articles unless they specifically tell you not to. And the keyword in a mini post needs to be used at least once in each paragraph. You can write the 250 word paragraph out to 3 paragraphs, but we recommend using 2 to 3 paragraphs maximum. Don't break it down into thin sentences. Also, a mini post and an article should not be written with a bunch of bullet points and 1 paragraph of text. If you're going to write an article and use a lot of bullet points, make sure you have a beginning sentence paragraph and an ending sentence paragraph. At least 1 to 2 sentences introducing the article and at least 2 sentences concluding it. Do not just make 1 small paragraph and a bunch of bullet points, unless the customer specifically specifies for you to do so. Once you have your post written and you have all your check marks, usually you just need to look at this check mark here. If you have a check mark here, generally it's going to go because it has everything in it. The other clue is that the submit button shows up after you do a spell check, and then you just hit submit. Once you've submitted anything, it's going to tell you what post it was and how many there were added. Okay, so the next one we're going to go over is the standard article project. These always come in sets of 1. If a customer were to submit an article set, say they submitted 10 articles in 1 project, before it gets to the writer's queue, we're going to splinter that project into 10 individual projects for 10 separate writers to take. You can also take all 10. We do this so that all the work can be completed in parallel and the customer can get their work back as fast as possible. The other reason we do this is to make sure that the articles are different enough in their context. Now, a standard article comes in original and rewritten versions, which we're going to go over next as the rewritten version. So for now, we're just going to do the standard article that's in an original format. They have the same features, extra research, which means extra detail in the article. If you ever get an article with extra research, it's going to pay more and it's going to ask for more detail. So make sure that the facts and the details are in there. The extra research is essentially asking for more detail. Main keyword and title, yes. Secondary keywords, which are keywords you're going to use 1 time each in the article, and then you're going to use the main keyword, in this case, 2 times because they're asking for it to be used twice. So pay attention to this number over here. So you'll use that main keyword twice, the LSI keywords 1 time each. Research URLs are self-explanatory. Keyword box, keyword notes, which is notes for the keyword or angles that they want you to use specifically, or the LSI terms or supporting keywords. But the title needs to be a complete thought. It needs to be a potent title because it's going to be what people are going to see before they click into the content. So we need to sell the content in the title. And then you write the 350 word article in 3rd person informative style. which is basically going to be written analytically. You may use second person a little bit in there, but make sure it's mostly analytically written. It needs to be an authoritative article on the topic. And generally you have between 350 to 400 words. And then you just hit spell check. Some of the spell check options are no word in there for lycopene or caffeinated. So you can go ahead and just hit save. So we have a submit box. We can go ahead and submit that. Okay, so we go back to projects. That's all there is to a standard article. Now the difference between a standard rewritten article and a standard article is this one box right here. You're going to get a rewritten article content box in here, and this is where the customer can either put in the URL. Most of the time they'll actually give you a URL and they will link you to the content on the web, because often when they want something rewritten, it's because somebody else wrote it and they liked it. In this case, they didn't copy it in here, they actually gave you a URL. If you see a whole bunch of content in this box, this is the actual content you're going to need to rewrite. So if they just put a note in here, you know that they already got a URL. If there's no URL, and there's no content in this box, and there's no URL to content in this box either, go ahead and submit a ticket and let us know and we'll figure it out. Sometimes we can see the URL, but it doesn't show up in a project. And all the other boxes are the same and all the rules are the same. So the next article type we're going to go over is the medium article. Now the medium article follows all the same rules and regulations as a standard article. The main difference is it has more words. And this one, for example, has 501 to 600 words. In the medium article project, you're going to have the same content types, original or rewritten, extra research, how many times the keyword is to be used, main keyword and title, secondary, research URLs, project notes, keyword notes, and title, and content box. It's all going to be the same. You're going to use the keyword the amount of times the customer specifies, and if they don't specify any keyword used, then you're going to use it at least once in there. The medium article is based on there being more words that you're going to need to do more research and make sure there are more facts in here. That means don't add 200 extra words from the standard article and it be all fluff. It needs to be potent information, factual information, and useful information for the customer, and it needs to be valuable to the reader. Large article types are going to have more words. This is going to be between 601 and 700 words. The extra large article is going to be exactly the same as the rest. Again, more detail. Make sure that you're adding very good detail and potent copy. The difference is going to be 701 to 801 words. The jumbo article is going to follow all the same rules also, and it's going to be 800 words to 900 words. The super jumbo is going to be 900 words to 1,000 words. Now the last one is called Ezinearticles. This is a special type of article designed specifically for the Ezinearticles.com site. The Ezinearticles posts are going to be subject to an auditing process before Ezinearticles will allow them to post it. So we've created a set of rules for the customer to agree to when it comes to Ezinearticles. They can't reject Ezinearticles after a certain period of time. They'll have a couple days to put it up on Ezinearticles and see if it passes. The basics are that it needs to follow our basic article protocols, be well written, there cannot be any keyword stuffing. In other words, you can't use any words within these posts too many times. Ezinearticles will actually scan the post to see how many words are being duplicated. For example, how many instances of the word forklift, things of that nature. If it's an actual keyword type of word and it's used several times, and it's easy to do on some types of posts, so just make sure when you're writing an Ezinearticles post that you're very careful not to use any words more than a couple times in the post. Words like the you can use as many times as necessary because it's used all over the post, but words like business or forklift or Sydney, things like that. If you use, for example, if this post is about forklifts in Sydney and you use Sydney over and over and over and over again, and it ends up more than 1% of the post's word count is Sydney, then they're going to reject it. And for that kind of a thing, you're going to have to actually get rid of a bunch of instances of that particular word. But overall, the way the article's written is just write it factually, write it potently, make sure it's adhering to the title, make sure the title is written potently, and that it actually tells you what's in the article, not some ambiguous sentence. For example, this one says, who are ideal renters for forklift rentals in Sydney? See, they should have added in Sydney, because you don't want it to be grammatically incorrect, even if their keyword is. If you have to use their keyword in the title, you can add joiner words to the title box. So for example, you can write forklift rentals in Sydney. So you can add an S to the end of rental and you can put in as a joiner word between those two. But you can't change it in the keyword box itself. So that's how the Ezinearticle works, and then you just hit submit. And then it says Ezinearticle 1 added. Go ahead and click on the profile page from anywhere in your account. And at the top, you'll see two links. One's the NDA form, which we went over, and My Statistics. My Statistics link, this is where you're going to see how much your project's paid out and verify that they paid out. So go ahead and click on that. And the next screen, you're going to have a filter. You're going to set this to the current month. In this case, it's September. And you're going to want from the 1st to the 31st, so it gets every day in between. You can set this to a specific date just to see one day of work, or you can set it to see everything between a certain time period. Okay, so in this case, we're September to September. Then all you have to do is hit submit. And it's going to show you everything you did in that time period. So what you're going to see is the project number of the project that you completed, the project title, the date the project was completed on, and the payout. So for this one, we basically had an Ezinearticle which paid out $4.50, and we had a mini post project which paid out $2. And then it gives you the grand total here. If you got a grade on these projects, the grading will show up here. So you'll see a 1, 2, 3, 4, or a 5 here. Now, one thing to pay attention to is that if this title here disappears, it's because the customer has deleted the project from their account. Usually when a customer gets a project back, they'll hold it in their account as a backup just in case they lose it or for any reason. However, some customers will actually delete the projects as soon as they use them, just to make sure there's no other copies out there. So if this happens, you're going to still see the project number and you're going to see the payout and the date it was completed, but you will not see a title here. So that's what happens when the title disappears. Another thing that you can use this for is, for example, if you want to see how much money you've earned between January and October, then you can just set this to January whatever date and October whatever date, and then hit submit. It's going to show you all your projects completed between those dates and the payout. I'm going to show you an example of what a rejected project looks like and how it behaves. So I'm going to go ahead and reject back one of the projects that I accepted earlier. Okay, so the first thing to notice is I have this set up to go directly into my personal queue or the accepted queue. And if I hit projects, it's going to load that up. But this means I can complete any of the projects in my queue and have no problems. However, if a project's rejected, then the customer is going to fill in some rejection notes here. And then they're going to submit it. At this point, the post is in your account waiting for you to look at it. Now, what you're going to notice is if I try to go into any of my projects by clicking on projects, and it's going to show nothing. Now, everything is still working. All of your projects are still there. They're just hidden from you. The only way to get back to your projects is to complete the rejected work, clicking on this box and going to the rejected queue. It's going to have a red pencil, and that lets you know this is a rejected project. Once you go into the project, if you scroll down to the keyword notes, this is where it's going to say what the customer is trying to tell you that needs to be fixed. This is where rejection notes show up. This is where they're going to say things like the grammar needs fixing, there's too many run-on sentences, and things of that nature. Once you complete the project, then go through the normal spell check and save, and then you can submit the post back, and it's going to submit it the same way it did the first time. The only difference is when you go back to your projects, you're going to be able to see all your projects again. So don't be alarmed if you see all your projects gone. It just means you have something in your rejected queue that needs to be completed right away. And again, if your work is late because of a rejected project, then you're still going to be penalized for that work. 9 times out of 10, you're going to need to complete the rejected work and get it in as quickly as possible so you can get to your queue. If it's rejected for quality issues, we're not going to unblock it. You're going to have to complete it, and if any projects expire, then that's going to be the penalty for not getting it in correct the first time. I want to make it extremely clear that quality is one of our biggest assets. Turnaround time is our second biggest asset. Regardless of when the project was due, we want you to complete all work within 1 to 2 days max. Do not pile up work if you cannot complete them in this time frame. There should be absolutely no rejections for quality of work, detail missing, fluff writing, or not following notes left by the customer. I need to cover some important points that need to be very carefully adhered to. Number 1, titles. Titles should contain no periods, dots, or underscores. These aren't sentences. These are descriptions of the article contents. Exclamation points and question marks are okay. Titles must describe vividly as possible the contents of the article. The article must adhere to that promise or over-deliver. In other words, you can't write a title that gets the reader excited and then not deliver. If you accidentally use the same title on 2 posts in the same project, it will not submit the second project. It will submit the first. The reason for this is duplicate content. You will have to change the title before the remaining posts or posts are allowed to submit. If you submit a 10 blurb project, for example, and it submits 8 of the 10 and says the other 2 are duplicate content, chances are the titles are identical. The keyword shouldn't be used in the title at all for mini blurbs and blurbs, unless they specifically ask you to do so. Number 2, links. If customers ask you to provide links or create links in the article, you cannot do this. You could actually create the links, but they'd be stripped out when you submitted the article. We only allow links the system creates when you submit it. For example, every instance of the keyword in your article will be converted into a hyperlink to the customer's website when you submit it. It goes in text, comes out a link, or 2 or 3, depending on the keyword use. If you're asked to create links of any kind, just ignore this and complete the project as usual. If you're not sure, always submit a ticket.
Goodbye.